All right, class, before going to the learning objectives for this chapter, I wanted you to see this image on your screen and think about what type of promotional mix element it is. Is it conventional advertising? Is it more like a sales promotion, um, personal selling? Where would you fit or classify this communication effort within the different tools available for the marketer? Well, this is a catalog. I often get this type of catalogs um, from my children's school, from the elementary. Of course, the publisher wants to sell children books and materials, and you are familiar with them. You know them. You probably took them home also when you were in elementary, in grade school. So where would this be classified? And this has to do not just with trying to find the correct classification, but this is for you to reflect about the complexity and the purposes of the different tools from the promotional mix that are available for marketers, and in order to select which ones are more effective depending on what you want to accomplish, right? So for this chapter, we will talk about direct marketing. That's where this catalog would be would be considered in that promotional mix tool. That's where this catalog fits, and that's what it corresponds to. So today we will identify purposes served by direct marketing, explain the popularity of direct marketing, distinguish mailing list from a marketing database. What are the differences? And review the applications of each. And finally, describe the media used by direct marketers in delivering messages to consumers. So what is direct marketing? Like this example of a children book catalog that I showed you. What is direct marketing? It's an interactive system of marketing which uses one or more advertising media to affect a measurable response. So that's important, to affect a measurable response and or transaction at any location. So it's not simply a flyer and a conventional ad. This tries to be interactive in that it allows to establish a dialogue with consumers through multiple contacts. You expect that if the parents of these children who brought home this book catalog, if the parents decide to buy those books, you have to return that uh, purchase order, right? You utilize multiple media as well. That's a possibility, not always, but that's something, that's one of the opportunities for creating synergies. Remember, building on the IMC concept, on the integrated marketing communication concept, you deploy different channels of communication, but all together aligned with the same purposes. So maybe you see a commercial that is running on television and you call the 1-800 numbers, and then you get home, they send you by mail a catalog for you to look at the different products and place an order, etc. So you can use multiple media. So direct marketing is very suitable for this integrated marketing communication concept. A big advantage is that you can get immediate measurable responses that you do not get, for instance, in the same way with conventional advertising. You may have a radio commercial or television commercial, or people may see a billboard by the highway, but How effective is that? You don't know, at least immediately, but in a direct marketing effort, you can get, for example, a clear, accurate measurement according to the number of order forms that are returned, right? How many people call the 1-800 number after watching the commercial, the material in a magazine, etc. So from the perspective of return on investment, for example, this is a very appropriate communication tool that allows you to have greater accountability on the expenditures of your marketing budget. And last but not least, you can reach consumers at any location. That's something that should not be overlooked. You can literally sell your products to consumers in places where they do not necessarily have a retail store. They do not have a brick and mortar establishment, right? So direct marketing is helpful in that it accomplishes that goal of reaching broader population in places even abroad, like even in countries where you're not physically present, you can have your products sold there. So these are characteristics of direct marketing tools. Let's talk a little bit about what is the historical origin of direct marketing, because it has its roots in mail order companies and catalog merchandisers, right, such as L.L. Bean, Montgomery Ward. But it really goes back in time to the invention of the print, right, back in the 15th century by Gutenberg, because having the capability to print material to be distributed to other geographic locations, that's what really triggered the possibility to sell in other locations, which of course it took several centuries to be crystallized or to take the form that we know it today, right? In a commercial sense. The first catalog that was published, at least for book and science product, this is something that was started by Benjamin Franklin, right? Back in the 18th century. Imagine, it was a long time ago, but the way in which it became a larger scale communication and distribution industry, it was in the 19th century with stores, well, what later became stores, but they initially started as catalog companies, merchandisers that sold through catalog. Montgomery Ward was one of those stores that later on, more clearly in the 20th century, they had traditional brick and mortar stores, but they started as catalog merchandisers, right? Sears company that we now are familiar with as a big box store, department stores, they started in this way. So the history of direct marketing indicates that this is one of the tools and methods for commercialization of products and services that has been longer around for longer in the industry. What are the specific purposes that we can outline are more salient for using direct marketing? Well, the three primary purposes are that they help closing sales with customers. Many times you have customers that may go to a store, to establishment, right? And they don't make a purchase decision there, but through direct marketing you can follow up, get in contact back with them in a attempt to close a sale, right? You probably get information from potential customers and prospects, right, in the form of leads. Nowadays with digital marketing, internet tools, you have internet users who sign up for a newsletter, for your emails, for information in your application, in your app, for your mobile phone. And these are leads that potentially could be converted into sales that you close. Identify prospects for future contacts in such a way that the reason, think about it, the reason why a prospect, a customer who requests information to you or goes to your store, calls your telephone number to get information, that's a big advantage in terms that you know that they already have an interest, right? It's not that you just go out there to try to catch customers randomly from the general population. No, if you have someone who is browsing your website, downloaded your uh, mobile phone application, that's because the customer has a interest in and is looking for the product that you sell, and is maybe doing comparison with other rival competitors. So what a better way to utilize their contact information than trying to entice and provide and offer different options of something that they already care about. For example, you are planning to travel and have a vacation in a nature-oriented destination, right? Maybe some ecotourism activities. So you look around for states that offer those opportunities. So you see a poster or a display or a commercial for Wyoming, right? And as you see down in the lower part of that image, you have website, you have 1-800 number. If you call and you request for a brochure, for a catalog, travel catalog, or information material, then you are half of the way there as a marketer in terms of having identified a customer who it has potential to visit your place, to be sold on the idea, compared to just throwing out a advertising campaign to the general public, right? Another primary purpose, of course, is to offer information and incentives to foster brand loyalty, to strengthen the loyalty of those customers who already purchased from you, those customers who already tried what you sell, your service, your product. If we see this link here, Golden Corral, what is one way in which they try to tap on this third purpose, foster brand loyalty? Well, they have a club, a customer club for which you have to sign up, and this is the core, this is the cornerstone on which this marketing program is built, which is getting the information of the customer. When you sign up for their gold club, you have to provide your contact information, and that's a way that they will give you special gifts, free meals, special promotion, And that's a way of keeping the customer's information in their database. We will talk about that in a couple more minutes. That allows you to give information, to implement a marketing program specific for those customers in that segment, not for the general public, one more time, but for those customers who already are signed up for your loyalty program, let's say, right? What are the reasons for which direct marketing is growing in popularity despite it's not a new type of marketing mix tool? It's been around for a long time, but still is growing in popularity because, among other things, it is convenient, right? Something that can be implemented through conventional media, through telephone, through mobile and internet devices. In the past, it was usually conducted through regular mail and telephone lines, in case there was telephone line. Remember, there are many countries in which telephones infrastructure was not as spread like in the US, and the same thing can be said about mail systems, right? Where you don't have a postal service as efficient as the US. But now the computer internet capabilities allow to do this in a more seamless manner, right? Without many obstacles that you had in the past. Why? Because pretty much majority of populations, of course, without looking at specific group of population or segments, but the majority population is growing in the in adopting internet tools and technologies as their main source of or channel or platform for communication. And this computer power, because of all the transactions and communications going on online, allows to keep records of data that can be used for decision-making purposes. For example, you have heard of the concept data mining, right? In which you have such large amount of customer information, transactions, that as a company you can mine on those on that information that you have in order to obtain patterns or discover information pieces that can be used for your marketing programs, right? And as discussed earlier, the tracking capabilities of direct marketing allow you to focus on the measurable outcomes of your, for example, sales promotion. This image that you have here on your screen is from Dollar Shave Club. What they do? Well, they combine a self-promotion approach with a direct marketing program. If you go to if you click on that social media post or a banner or whatever they sell you, maybe through email, it will take you to their landing page where you can claim or enter your data, your information, your personal information, so you can get a trial kit, right? Of course, what they are trying to do is to have the customer try the product. If you are using other brands, well, maybe switch to their brand. If you are not using any brand of this type of kits for shaving, maybe start using them. But in the meantime, you have to give them the information. You have to provide them your contact info so that they can then continue that relationship with you. And that takes us to the next topic, which is that of database marketing. In order to build a database marketing program, a direct marketing effort as part of your strategy, it is necessary to have information, but not just a mailing list. What is a mailing list? Well, it's just a list of names and addresses of current or potential customers, but this is very basic information. You can have, for example, in your business, internal lists, right, which are important. For example, based on information from accounting records, invoices, and other operational and accounting operations that you conduct, so that you have a list of past customers and their contact information, right? Or maybe you can purchase externally information of customers that you don't have, but that can be potential customers of your firm. You may buy the list of customers from banks, from other companies that sell this information. But that is not enough to build a database that helps you enhance your direct marketing effort. Why is this? Because what you want to do is precisely enhance that information by adding other type of data that is richer, that gives you insights and better tools to improve your communication with them. So it's not just enough to have a name and an address and a phone number for contacting somebody, but what you want to have is enhance this list with information from a demographic perspective, right? Like, what are the age of your of the previous customers you've had, or the potential customers? What is their education level, so that you can estimate what is their purchasing capacity. The same thing with income, ethnicity, right? Where they live, like the what is the type, the neighborhood characteristics. Also, psychographic destination as much as possible, their preferences, their lifestyle, the type of values and opinions that particular segment has, behavioral data, of course, how often they go on vacations, how often they go out to dinner, whether they prefer to outdoor activities, or going to museums, or going to sports games. So these list enhancements add up to the information that you have as a basic, at a basic level, which is just name and contact information, right? Therefore, the more information, the richer the information and the nuances of that database, of that content in the database, the better for the decisions that you have to make in terms of what you will offer to them, what pricing levels, etc. Right? So a database is a natural extension of the internal list, but the more you can add, the more information you can aggregate, collected from the customers in things that matter to you, the more useful it's gonna be, right? for example, one of the concepts that is utilized in building databases to implement direct marketing activities is the so-called recency, frequency, and monetary analysis, the RFM analysis. What you want to do, for example, looking at each of these terms, is recency. When was the last time that this customer in your database, when was the last time that he or she purchased a car or a laundry machine or a refrigerator or whatever you sell? How often a customer goes out to the movie theater, if you are in that sector, if you are a marketer for a movie theater, how often those customers that sign up for your loyalty program, for your downloaded your app or whatever other tool to contact them, how often they go out? And third, how much they spend. Are those big spenders? Are those not very big spenders? This will help you recognize and identify what are the best approaches to follow, to implement, in terms of, are you going to give them discounts because that's what your database information suggests? Are you going to offer them higher quality premium offers because that's what your psychographic information in the database suggests? So what matters to them is going to be determined by the information that you have, largely. Of course, this can be complemented with other sorts of research conducted, like market research. Some companies have their rewards program, right, like frequency marketing programs, based on this type of tools. So if you think, for example, of hotels and resorts, Holiday Inn and Marriott and Hilton, their loyalty programs are basically frequency marketing programs, and they will send or offer different options, different products, different incentives to different type of customers based on those distinctions in their profile, in their database marketing. You can do cross-selling, which is something that you see more often in banks and credit card companies, for instance. Some of you recall that you get your bank statements, and sometimes they will offer, in addition to their accounts, to the accounts that you have with them, they will offer you some other product, maybe some insurance, maybe some special offer for a retailer store, right? So these are examples of cross-selling opportunities that the same customers, you try to use the information to sell something else to that same customers, something else in addition to what you already are giving them. Now, what is the common media that is used in direct marketing? Well, as previously discussed, direct mail originally for several decades, mostly in the 20th century, but also at the end of the 19th century, and still up today. Now, direct mail is a common tool. Telemarketing also, even though in recent years, because people are not using telephone landlines, fixed lines in the way as in the 20th century, well, telemarketers have a harder time trying to reach someone at a home, at a household, because people are switching to mobile phones, and some legal restrictions for telemarketers have to do with contacting people in their cell phones. Although some companies still, one way or another, still call people to their cell phones, and probably you have gone through that you have a telemarketing company calling your phone offering you something, but you don't know how they are able to reach you if you did not uh, give consent for those firms to call you. So it's still a topic that is on in discussion and debate, but telemarketing is one of those uh, channels used. Email, of course, one more time, although people now receive an email, and well, many of you will open it, but most people probably will just delete it and send it to the trash of your email, in the spam inbox. Well, still, email is very effective. I think is between 5 and 10% of response rate or effectiveness, but still that's a lot. So that's why it's being utilized by companies, because even though most of this email goes to the spam of your account, still many people will open it and get the message that you are giving them. Other channels are newspapers, magazines, radio. One more time, these are things, these are channels that still, for some segments that are very loyal, that are that have been shown as consistently keeping those reading habits, media consumption habits. Now probably you will not go and buy a magazine in the same way that the population used to do in the 20th century, but still there are some specific narrow segments of consumers who still go out and buy a magazine, listen to the radio, read newspapers. Of course, they have a very particular demographic and psychographic profile, but still is a way of reaching those segments of potential consumers. Infomercials, right? You have, of course, those kind of mixture of entertainment and commercial, even though you have satellite television and you don't have and you have a way to skip to the commercial material, to the commercials in those channels. Well, you used to have a lot of people who likes to watch long 30 minutes, 1 hour infomercials. So here I am closing this chapter with this learning objective 4. We will continue next time with the chapter about self-promotion.